Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast,
where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture.
We talk to producers all over the country,
From small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations.
Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades,
We hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs.
here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. Really enjoying doing this podcast, and I don't know if it always shows in my voice, because sometimes I have to whisper if I'm in different parts of the house. Kids and the wife get a little aggravated. It's like, why are you talking so loud? Anyway, so I really appreciate everybody listening. Podcast seems to be doing okay. I really don't have a big metric to compare it against, but y'all are sharing it. People are downloading it, so I appreciate you doing that. If you want to help get this podcast to grow more, then just please share it with people you feel would have an interest in this subject matter. We're always going to stay on the subject of pastured pigs and the raising of that process. I felt it was possible, or I felt it was necessary, actually, to kind of discuss the purpose of the podcast. You know, we want to introduce producers of all sizes, any size, across the country and even across the world if we start to reach out that far, and just discuss the issues and successes with raising pigs on pasture. Already in the interviews that we've done, I've learned so much, and I've really gotten some great ideas. It's just really neat to share information with one another. And as I talk to people in different climates, different areas, different topography, it's just neat to see successes and challenges, the benefits, the pros, the cons that everyone has with raising pigs in their unique situation. So I really appreciate just this opportunity to talk to everybody and share the story. Well, before we get into our interview, I did want to give just a little update of what's going on here at Red Tool House. We actually have a respite from the rain, so I'm enjoying this cooler evening tonight. Sun's out this evening. But as far as our pigs go, we have this year, due to some farrowing issues we had at the beginning of the year, we're actually taking a break from raising any feeders this year, or taking a break from raising any growers this year, I should say. And we're kind of taking this time to reassess our process, reassess our genetics. You talk about maybe starting over, going more toward heritage. There's all kinds of things we're still trying to figure out. So I'm taking this year to really figure that out. And of course, using all this input I'm getting from the podcast to help kind of guide me in those decisions. But it's funny, right now I have my 4 sows that I've had. One Abigail, the oldest one, she's been on farm forever, and unfortunately I think she's becoming more of the farm pet. She's 6+ years old and doesn't really farrow well, and like a dummy I keep her on farm, but man, one of the most calmest, most docile pigs you'd have. Just love her temperament, so I like having her around. And as you guys know that raise pigs, they're like dogs, so they are loyal, they are very smart, they'll come hang out. They're just a treat to have around. So I've got these 4 sows that we have on farm. Well, each morning, of course, I do my daily routine before I head into the office, and it involves me getting on my side-by-side up here at the house. And I say up here, we're in a valley in West Virginia. Of course, we have a lot of mountains. So the pig area where I'm feeding them right now is down in the valley. The house sits up on this point. So each morning I get in the side-by-side, start it up, drive down to the feeding area. It's about half mile, I guess, away. So drive down there, feed the pigs, and of course come back up. Well, talking about how smart pigs are, it's like a Pavlovian experiment there. Every time they hear the starter on that side-by-side in the morning, they know it's feed time. So it's kind of funny. It's become a race, especially with all this rain we've been having. I don't want to be carrying their buckets of feed through the mud when they come down, because they like to kind of knock you around a little bit. Just kind of come up and nudge you, and nudge the bucket, lean against you. I mean, these are some pretty big sows. So we're talking 400, 500 pound sows. So I try to get down there before them and get their bowls filled before they come down there and start bowling me over. Well, it's funny now that they're so used to that starter sound on the side by side that they'll just book it down from their sleeping shed, which is up on the other ridge opposite of the house. So it's kind of funny. It's like a race. So when I start, I'm coming down one side of the mountain. They're coming down the other side of the mountain, and we're meeting in the middle. So it's who can get there fast enough. So I find myself, throttling the side by side a little bit more than I should, busting out mud holes and everything as I'm blasting through there, trying to get to the bulls before they do. But anyway. So on today's podcast, we interviewed Nate Beaulac from Prairie Creek Farms, and that is in just outside of Tulsa. My goodness, I can't talk. Tulsa, Oklahoma, and actually about 20 minutes outside of Tulsa, which is awesome. And we'll get into that discussion with Nate as he describes his setup. But Nate is kind of funny. Back in 2015, Nate and two of his friends, just through some motivation on a whim, decide, hey, let's get into farming. And Nate actually tells a story about how he's got a history in medical sales, I believe, something that has him traveling a lot for medical purposes, and just seeing a lot of sickness and trying to figure out, hey, why are we always seeing these young kids, young adults having all these chronic health conditions, and started making the connection with our food system. So just in spending time on the plane reading and all that, it got motivated to start a farm, to get into farming, convinced two of his other friends to jump in with him, and in a little over 3 years, they have a booming pastured pork farm. Actually, it's more than pastured pork. They're now polyculture with grass-fed beef, grass-fed chicken, grass-fed eggs, and they're pastured pork, and just really, really having some success there in the Tulsa area. So we'll jump right into Nate's discussion there, and we'll catch you on the backside. All right, everybody, really excited about tonight's interview. On the phone with me, I have Nate Beaulac from Oklahoma. Welcome, Nate.
Thanks for having me on, Troy.
All right, so Nate, Oklahoma, is my understanding that is that the place where the wind comes sweeping down the plains?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Okay. I'm not native to Oklahoma, but I've been here for about 12 years now, and yeah, a little too much wind, honestly.
Yeah, you guys have had some rough weather already this spring, haven't you?
Yeah, very much so. The spring for us is kind of always unexpected, and it could be 75 and sunny one day, and then rain 3 inches and 40-mile-an-hour winds the next. You never really know.
Yeah, I guess that's the beauty of the price you pay to live in paradise, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, your farm is called Prairie Creek Farms. Why don't you give us a little background? I was looking at information on your website, and I loved your story about how you guys got started. So if you wouldn't mind, back up there to that discussion in 2015 that's noted on your website about how you guys decided to do Prairie Creek Farms and just some of the details about it.
Sure. So there's 3 of us. It's myself, Peter, and Jason that run the farm. Back in 2015, I don't have a farming background at all, and I'm from San Francisco originally, very much a city kid, but been working in healthcare for quite a few years. And at the time, I was traveling around the country doing some consulting work for a hospital network, and my job was to really identify areas of improvement in the hospitals in terms of getting patients through the process faster. And as I was sitting alone in these hotel rooms, I'm kind of doing some analysis on what the problem really here is. And I found that the problem is that everybody's so sick. And, I was going a lot into the South. We had emergency rooms in these hospitals filled with patients, 22-year-olds coming in with chest pain and high blood pressure, and 15-year-olds with diabetes. And I just kind of one night just started doing a little bit of research on the food system. And then, as we all know, there's plenty of information out there on what's wrong with the food system. And then that led me to books like by Michael Pollan, The Omnivore's Dilemma, which obviously led me over to Joel Salatin, started reading his books. I'm on plane flights all over the place, and I'm just got podcasts and books on tape in my ear for hours and hours on end on these trips. And I'm listening to stories of other farmers and who's doing it right. And And I got back to Tulsa, which is kind of my landing place. I was living with my buddy Peter at the time, and I said we were going on a road trip to go move his grandparents out of their house in Texas. And I was like, hey, on this road trip, we're going to listen to this book, and at the end of it, you're going to want to farm. And he thought that was hilarious because he knew that I'm not a farmer, nor would I ever be a farmer. So sure enough, we listened to a book called Folks, This Ain't Normal by Joel Salatin. And we finished the book about halfway through the trip. On the way back, we were very much talking through the logistics of how would we raise the product, what would we raise first. We both had jobs. Obviously, I was traveling a lot. And we landed on pigs. And pigs, we determined, they're a little lower maintenance than, chickens and certainly than cows. And we liked pork, and we just kind of decided that pigs were a good fit for us. So then started our journey, and we borrowed some land. Our friends of ours loaned us, they leased us 2 acres of really scrubby woods. I mean, just thorns and thickets and a little creek running through it, just junk land. And they thought it'd be really funny to kind of piss off the neighbors and let us run pigs over there. And so we did that. And, we didn't have water on that property, but we had a creek that was wet all year round. So the pigs just drank out of the creek, and we got some non-GMO feed from a feed mill in Arkansas, and built our own feeder, built our own waterer, watched YouTube videos how to set up an electric fence, and then we just made a lot of mistakes for the first couple of months, for sure. Pigs running all over the road, and we had a neighbor call in saying that our pigs were pooping in the creek, so the Department of Agriculture had to come out to the farm and inspect that we weren't running a commercial hog operation and draining all the manure into a creek. But I'll tell you, that was an eye-opening moment for us when that guy came out, because he was the head of the Oklahoma Department of Food and Agriculture, and once he came out and saw what we were doing, and he was looking around, and we were nervous about it, obviously, and he just said, I wish everybody was raising hogs this way.
Wow.
And he gave us a piece of paper, said we were good to go, went and talked to the neighbor, told him to chill out, and that was the end of it. And when that day happened, it was about a couple months before we processed our first hogs, and I think that's when it really clicked for us that, this is more than just a hobby. This might be something that we could really sink our teeth into.
Excellent. So you guys at this time, you're both working day jobs, I assume?
Peter actually just went full-time on the farm. Jason is he's got a more flexible schedule. He's part-time on the farm. I still have a day job, and I'm also part-time on the farm. So the way things are looking now, I think that pretty good chance that all 3 of us will be on the farm full-time, if not the end of 2019, then certainly spring of 2020.
Oh, excellent. I know I jumped ahead of there a little bit. So that's my bad. So let's back up there. So you're getting to where you're getting ready to do your first process, and you're realizing, hey, this could be more than just a couple hogs and a hobby. So
right.
So going from that patch of dirt, you obviously you're no longer on that patch of dirt, right? Where are you now?
Right. Well, after selling the first, we processed our pork into cuts. We had 10 pigs, and we processed them, kind of sold them, family and friends, out of the back of our truck. And then we got a restaurant, a pretty popular restaurant here in Tulsa, got their hands on some of our product, and they wanted more. And so we're kind of talking about the logistics of supplying. They wanted just ham steaks for their brunch, right? And so anybody who's raised pastured pork, you've got to move the rest of the pig.
Yeah.
And so we kind of worked through the logistics and started raising, we got another 10 pigs, and then the 15, and then we had outgrown our, 2 acres, obviously. And then we had a friend of ours approach us, and he wanted to get involved in the farm, and we said, what we're really looking for is land. And so he basically just gave us the opportunity of a lifetime. He said, if I, buy land or, get some land, would you guys lease it from me? We said, absolutely, 100%. So we moved forward in end of 2016. Let's see, we processed our first pig summer of 2016. By December of 2016, we'd moved to an 80-acre piece of property about 20 minutes outside of Tulsa.
Wow.
And that's where we are now, and we're actually about to lease the 40 acres behind us. So yeah, and so from there we've got, I don't want to jump out. We got a lot of animals now.
Yeah. So wow. Okay. So let's unpack that for a second. So you guys went from a couple acres to 80 acres, but you said 20 minutes outside of Tulsa. So I mean that's a farmer's dream to have a market that large 20 minutes away. I mean, are you in an urban area? Are you guys still pretty rural there, 20 minutes out?
We're pretty rural. Outside of Tulsa, it gets very rural very quickly. And so, being 20 minutes out is a huge advantage for us, especially because now we're working with a lot of restaurants and we're doing home deliveries and all that. It's a huge advantage, but I think the biggest thing that we got a great deal on the land, and the lease is great, the terms are great, and we get to stay there. We've got a 50-year lease, so we get to stay there for a while, and so we're tremendously blessed in where we have. But the biggest advantage of being so close is one of our biggest tools, as from a marketing perspective but also from a mission perspective, is bringing people to the farm to see how animals are raised. And I think with rural, with most farms that are so rural and so far away, the people within the urban areas, the densely populated areas, it's a real task to get them to come out to your farm. I mean, that's a big commitment. A lot of times you're 2 hours, 3 hours out of town, where, when we tell people, hey, we're 20 minutes, 25 minutes away, they come out on a Thursday after work. They take a tour of the farm, they buy a couple of chickens, and they go home. And the tool of bringing people to the farm is the biggest marketing tool that we have as farmers. Yeah,
absolutely. That's great. I mean, just while we were talking there, pulled up. So Tulsa looks like in 2017, census data says that's 401,000 population in Tulsa. So you're 20 minutes from a mass of potential customers there. And like you said,
it's 400,000 in Tulsa, but the greater Tulsa metro area, which is there's 7 or 8 cities that kind of surround Tulsa real densely. Mm-hmm. That's about 1 million people.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like you guys.
Oklahoma City is an hour and a half away, and that's about 1.5 million.
No doubt. Sounds like you guys landed on your feet pretty good there, then.
We did. Yeah, we did.
All right. Well, so you said something I have to come back to. You say you've got a 50-year lease on this 80 acres.
That's correct.
Wow. So so I assume, kind of a dumb question then, I assume you guys don't have any plans to move anytime soon, since you're looking at, you said something about acquiring another 40 acres behind you?
Yeah, it's directly behind us. Like there's already a little gate between, there's a cross fence and a gate between our properties. So our property is like a big rectangle of 80 acres that runs, I guess it'd be a half mile, the length of our farm. And so the farm right behind us, or the piece of land right behind us, is an identical rectangle. So we're just essentially going to take over half of that.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's really just, this sounds ambitious, but that's really scratching the surface of where we plan to be, 5 years from now. I mean, we strategically named our farm Prairie Creek Farms with an S at the end. Because our vision is to, have multiple locations, specifically for the grass-fed beef. They require a lot of land, and so we'll be in the place where we're gonna hopefully lease multiple farms out, where we have, beef and chicken and pork raised all over the place, and hopefully be able to be in the position to employ more people to start raising more product.
That's excellent. Well, so let's look here. So they, it just amazed me. 2016. You guys are just barely 3 years into this.
Yeah.
So with that 80 acres, so you have a lease payment. I assume that lease payment, you guys negotiated a deal there where your lease payment is that one of those things that starts low and grows as you guys grow with it, or did you have a kind of a big nut to crack there straight out of the gate?
Yeah. No. It started just really low, like free. when we first got there, and it was like, hey, let's get this thing set up and ready to go. We also put, part of the arrangement is like we are putting in a lot of infrastructure on the farm. We put in silos, for example. We mill our own feed on site. We mill our own non-GMO feed because we're just kind of at the scale where we have to. And so we put in 4 18-ton silos on the farm with augers. We put concrete pads. We put in plumbing. There was nothing out there. And so we've got a little shop out there with a little small living quarters. We've run 3,500 feet of water pipe since we've been out there, running new cross fences. And obviously everything we do from a rotational grazing standpoint is improving the value of the land. And so the monthly payments are the least of our concerns, at least for now. I'm sure that, that'll change soon, but for now, it just gave us the opportunity to really dump gasoline on the Prairie Creek fire right now, and it's burning hot.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that infrastructure, man, that's going to pay off dividends.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, man, there's a ton of stuff here. So I know we're the Pastured Pig podcast, but I would be remiss if I didn't discuss this polyculture aspect that you guys have. I think there's a great benefit. You mentioned Joel Salatin, and I've been following him for a while. Been on his farm multiple more times than I care to admit. But the polyculture attitude, what led you guys to look and say, okay, we started with pigs, we got our feet wet with pigs. Now let's get crazy and bring in these other animals. So if you would briefly tell me what other animals you're raising and just the details behind that.
Sure. So we started with pigs, and then immediately moved into laying hens as soon as we got the property. Because what we found was, it's just like any business model, you got a couple of different things you could do to, increase revenue. And one of the easiest ones is to sell more products to your customers. So you could spend all day acquiring new pork customers, growing your pork operation, but once you have a pork customer, it's pretty easy to sell them a dozen eggs.
Yeah.
And so that's how we jumped into eggs, and we got 100 laying hens, and we got into a farmer's market. Tulsa farmer's market is outstanding. We got into a farmer's market, and we went in there just with pork, and everybody was, we did very well there, but it was very clear we had an opportunity in eggs, so we jumped in. And when we jump in, it's not like we bought one pig to start. We bought 10. So it's not like we bought 10 chickens to start. We bought 100. And then we started producing eggs and could never keep up. We never had enough eggs. I mean, we'd go to the farmer's market that was 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and we'd be out of eggs by 8:30. So we're like, okay, well, let's get another 200 laying hens and then another 500. I mean, right now on farm, I think we've got 1,000 laying hens on farm right now. Or thereabouts, another 700 coming in June.
Wow.
And we're still unable to keep up with the egg demand, to be honest. Then that pushed us, right, we've got eggs, we've got pork, and then we got into grass-fed beef. The property, when our friend bought it came with cattle, and we're like, great, we'll buy the cattle from that came with it. So we right there had 19 mama cows, and a handful of them were pairs, so they had a couple of little steers by their side, and then they all gave birth over that next year, and then we're all of a sudden we're in the grass-fed beef game. And then the last step was, all right, we've got beef, we've got eggs, we've got pork, chicken is the logical next step, meat chickens that is. And so we got, our first run of meat chickens is 300. Oklahoma, I won't get too deep into this, but Oklahoma has pretty strict processing laws. The USDA allows for any state to any small farmer to process 20,000 birds on site and sell them retail or wholesale in your state. Oklahoma and a handful of other states have decided not to adopt that rule. And so we cannot process our own chickens and sell them retail or wholesale to restaurants.
So you have no exemption whatsoever on?
None. And so we have to take our birds out of state to Arkansas. It's about 2.5 hours. And we process those out of state at a USDA inspected facility. and then we bring those back. It's a huge expense, which really drives the price of our chicken. But now we sell quite a bit of chicken as well.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I know I find value in talking about these other livestock discussions simply because of this polyculture aspect. And I've seen the same thing. I've had the same success on our farm. And we're a little backwards, a little different from you. We started with the egg layers, and
Nice.
yeah, you realize that touch point. You have all these touch points with your customers on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis, and then you say, hey, you've enjoyed our eggs. What about some pork? Would you like to get a whole or half hog, or would you like some cuts?
Yeah. You want a bacon, pack of bacon to go with that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. You start, the breakfast packets, all those type of things. So I love that idea. And for everyone listening that's saying, hey guys, this is supposed to be about pigs, this is where I'd really want to encourage those. If you've got the capacity to add additional animals, additional livestock to your operation, then you can see not only you're adding more opportunity for your customers to buy product off of you, but you've got more opportunity to contact them on a regular basis. If you're selling wholes and halves, you're selling it. You're contacting your client or your customer once every 6 months at the earliest. But then also with cash flow, I assume you guys are seeing the benefits of cash flow when it comes to weekly transaction with eggs, with pastured poultry, all those type of things.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is that, especially with chicken and pork, those two products really, they clean up each other's waste. And what I mean by that is you have packaging break on your pastured pork chops or whatever. That's devastating, right? You try to eat them or whatever. You have something, maybe you have too much packaging break or something goes bad or whatever the case may be. I got news for you. The chickens will be psyched to have that pork chop.
That's right.
And you go feed it to the chickens, then you're getting a better quality egg coming out of them, and vice versa. You drop a chicken in the field, we call it wet protein. You toss that chicken right to the pigs, they'll devour it, done and done. And they're happy to have it. And same thing with eggs. You've got a plethora of eggs. You got cracked eggs. Throw them in a bucket, feed them to the pigs. They're psyched. And so it's like you have these waste streams, and if you can take those waste streams and turn them into a value-added product, then you're ahead of the game. And that's kind of the way we see things. It's like, all right, well, a waste stream typically from a chicken is all the manure. Well, we move the chickens all over the pasture, which helps the grass grow bigger, which helps the cows get fatter, and then we process more grass-fed beef.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
obviously you've embraced the Salatin model, and I know there's others out there doing the exact same thing. This whole idea of rotational polyculture, animals on the pasture. Are you rotating your pigs in there, or are you keeping your pigs separate from your from your cattle pasture?
Well, so up until this winter, we kind of kept the pigs off the pasture. When we were looking for land, we were looking for land that had a mix of at least 50-50 pasture versus woods. We've always kept the pigs in the woods, and what we have is we call them the bacon strips. And so we've got on the side of our property, the whole property is lined with a big hillside, and the hillside is all just oak trees and cedar trees. And anyway, so almost a half mile of woods. And it goes up to the top of the hill. So what we did is we broke those woods into paddocks using electric fencing, and we use rebar, 3/4 inch rebar, and we drive that in, a 3-foot piece of rebar. We drive it in with a T-post driver, and it goes down a foot deep, and then we put insulators on those, and it makes your paddocks really flexible so you can bob and weave around trees. And we built. Now we've got 17 paddocks, I think is what we've got out there, and they're each between 3/4 of an acre and an acre and a half. And then we have gates in between each of the paddock, just a soft gate, a little, a pig panel, a 16-foot pig panel. And that's what we use to rotate our pigs. Now this winter, when we got this piece of property, the pasture was in really bad shape. It had just been used for years. It's just a hay pasture. The guy didn't do anything with it. So we won't spray any herbicides or chemical fertilizers or anything. It's not really, doesn't really work with our model. So we we thought, well, with this winter we were running 130 pigs out there all winter long, and we're like, why are we just letting these pigs just poop in the woods? Let's put them out on the pasture. Yeah, they're going to tear it up a little bit, but it's probably good for it. It needs to be torn up a little bit, and let them drop all these thousands of pounds of manure that we're going to be feeding them, thousands of pounds of feed. So all that manure, let's put it out on the grass. And that's what we did. So this winter, up until, 6 or 7 weeks ago, we had herds of pigs, 60 strong, each herd, rotating around the pasture. So we'd put them in a 2-acre paddock, and we would fill their feeders up twice. So they had 2 1-ton feeders. So we give them 4,000 pounds per 2 acres. That's 2,000 pounds of feed per acre. And then we'd move those feeders around within their paddock to kind of break up the disturbance, because if you've raised pastured pigs, that around their feeder gets really tough.
That's the pit.
Yeah, exactly. Really tough. And then if it's wet, it gets really muddy. And so we moved their feeders around to kind of spread out their pressure. And then we'd move them to a new paddock and then let that grow back. And I'll tell you what, it's worked. Now it's bumpy in there for sure, where the pigs have dug themselves little holes, but it's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're bringing the cows back out there in about 30 days to start hitting it hard. So, so woods is our primary place for the pigs. They thrive in that environment. When it's hot, they can go in the shade. When it's cool, they can lay out in the sun. And that's, your mileage may vary, but that's what works for us.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's what you got to do. You got to test it and see how it works and what works for your circumstance there. Well, one more question, and then I'll get on to some of the details. And again, feel free to answer this at the degree that you want. So you're kind of here doing the math in my head as you guys have, as you said, you poured gasoline on the fire to really get this thing rolling the past couple of years. Even purchasing 19 head of cattle, that's not something you're going to reach into your wallet and grab a handful of cash and say, I'll buy 19 head. Right. So in that situation, are you guys using bank loans? Did you drain some savings? Do you have investors? How are you guys overcoming that financial obstacle?
Yeah, so we have investor that initially came on, and the way that worked, to be perfectly honest, it was just interest-free loan whenever we needed it.
Awesome.
And so we haven't had to go to a bank we financed a vehicle recently, a delivery vehicle. But other than that, when we've needed cash for expansion, it's been available to us. But if it wasn't, we would absolutely just go to a bank and secure the financing. That being said, all 3 of us partners, we all have a significant financial investment ourselves into the farm.
Sure. Yeah. That's great.
So we've only really had to tap that resource in rare circumstances.
Well, excellent. And that's good. That's the beauty of bringing on partners and spreading that out. All right. Well, obviously we've talked about the pigs. Let's talk about some of the details. What breed do you guys have? Do you focus on one particular, or are you trying a bunch of different?
Well, so we started primarily Berkshire. 100% is where we started after doing some research and watching about 1,000 hours of YouTube. We kind of found that a lot of people were moving that way. The chefs wanted it. It was kind of from a marketing perspective. The Berkshire Association or whatever had done a great job marketing that, kind of like Black Angus has done for beef. And I think that it was just kind of our competitive advantage. There were some other smaller pasture-raised operations that were running pork too, and we were the only ones that were running Berkshire, so that kind of gave us an edge. We used that in marketing. That was great, and the Berks do great in our environment. It's, they're heat tolerant, they're cold tolerant, they're hardy pigs, and the quality of pork is outstanding. So if you haven't done any research on quality of pork, Berkshire quality of pasture-raised pork, you can go on Facebook. There's lots of debates in these pastured pig groups who has the best pork, but Berkshires continually come out ahead. Durocs do very well. So after starting with Berkshires, and I'd say the first 300 hogs we've processed have been Berkshires. Now at the scale that we are, which we will run 500 pigs this year, to be frank, we can't find enough Berkshire piglets.
Yeah.
And so we are moving towards a Berkshire Duroc cross. And I think that's the future. I'm sure you're familiar with Greg Gunthorpe up at Gunthorpe Farms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's done a fantastic job. I mean, the guy does so many pigs out on pasture, and he's running Durocs and Berkshire Duroc crosses. We talked to him in length, and we just kind of decided that's a good fit. The crossbred mamas seem to do a little bit better pigging out. We don't farrow on farm at this point, and so we've been kind of at the mercy of our pig breeders, who, don't get me wrong, they do an awesome job, but they just really can't keep up. And so
your whole operation rises. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, especially now where we're, essentially buying 40 piglets a month, we're at this scale where we're going to save significant money if we start farrowing ourselves. Plus, we'd have more control.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's, farrowing obviously is a whole other can of worms and all the different options associated with that. But yeah, I agree that that opportunity of being able to control that more, and of course biosecurity obviously comes into play there as well. Have you guys run into any of that with this mass purchase of weaned pigs? Are you running into much disease that you're bringing on farm?
Our breeders have done a real good job. Now, our breeders, what I mean by that is our current breeders. We have dealt with other people in the past, and to be honest, some of them just didn't do a great job, or unfortunately, we're maybe in the financial place where if you lose your job or something like that happens, and the livestock tends to be the last thing you feed over your family, which is natural. And we start getting shoddy looking pigs from people, and then we have pigs dropping out or coming to the farm super wormy. And we had to kind of find other breeders to fill that gap. So the ones we work with now, we've got 3 that breed for us, and they do an excellent job, and they are very savvy when it comes to biosecurity, very savvy when it comes to disease. We have a lot of conversations. There's a disease that popped up, I'm struggling to remember the name, a disease that popped up recently in Oklahoma City at some sort of a show pig convention, and it's a big scare for everybody because it's something having to do with diarrhea that has 100% mortality in piglets. Wow. Pretty nasty stuff. So we're all very aware of that concern. We don't buy like pigs out of a barn that we don't know. We don't go to the livestock auction and buy 30-pound, 50-pound pigs or anything like that.
Right.
We know where our pigs come from, and we've had really good success, to be honest.
So in that schedule with your breeders, are they dictating the schedule as, hey, we're going to farrow on these dates? Here's when you're going to be able to pick up the piglets. Or are you guys asking them, hey, I need piglets on this date, and they're setting their farrowing schedule?
Our farrowers, they're in a very good position because we've basically asked them to expand for us. And it's an upfront investment on their part. They got to go buy more sows, they got to buy more boars, farrowing huts, whatever. And so our agreement with our breeders is we will buy every piglet that you can sell us. We will never turn a piglet down if it looks good. And if anything changes, we'll give you a 6-month notice.
That's
and
fair.
So it's put them in a position where they can feel confident in expanding as much as they want to expand. And knowing that Prairie Creek will always be there to buy their piglets. And then it's put us in a position to, create a little bit of loyalty with your breeders, and where they want to kick out good-looking piglets, and they want to, work with you on the breeds that you're trying to work with and stuff like that. I mean, our success as a business is their success, and so it's created a partnership with our breeders that's it's worked out really well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Are they taking care of castration? Or are you guys leaving boars intact?
Yeah, so our requirements from our breeders are they cut all the males. They don't use antibiotics in on their pigs. Now, if they need to give their sows antibiotics, whatever, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But our marketing dictates that none of our animals have antibiotics at all, and so that's something we do. And then we ask that they don't clip teeth or tails.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, other than that, they can run their operation how they want to run their operation.
Yeah.
If that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you had mentioned something earlier about you guys are milling your own feed. Let's just talk about that briefly. So you've gone non-GMO. You've put in your silos. I assume, obviously, you've got your milling operation, your milling equipment there. Where are you sourcing? Are you sourcing local on your material?
So we source out of, well, we just changed some things recently, but either Kansas or Oklahoma or Missouri. I mean, local within 5 hours of us. We've got a couple of different non-GMO outfits. In Oklahoma, there really isn't anything non-GMO readily available. None of the feed mills mill it. If any of the feed stores offer non-GMO, it's coming out of Texas. There's a company, Texas Naturals, and then out of Arkansas, there was Highland Feeds. I'm not sure if they're still in business anymore. And so there wasn't anything being milled near us. And so we have a friend that we met at the farmer's market who has a large contract with Heritage Foods, I believe it is. And so he raises non-GMO feed or non-GMO pigs, and he raises like $1,000 a year for them. And I think they distribute to Whole Foods and stuff. So anyway, he started to keep his costs low. He started milling his own feed, and he was the one that we started buying feed from pretty early on. When we first started, we would go to Buffalo, Missouri, which is about a 4.5-hour, 5-hour drive, pick up 3 tons of feed on a flatbed truck, and then bring it back to the farm, store it in our garage in town in Tulsa, store it in our garage on pallets, and we were paying $5 something a ton for bagged feed. And milling our own non-GMO feed, we're under $300 a ton at this point.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's been outstanding. And so we have the silos, and then we order in. We work with the guys over at Futrell for mineral, and then we order in a couple of other minerals and spices and all sorts of stuff. It's like baking. You're like bags of flour and all sorts of stuff. But we've got a feed mill that goes on the back of our tractor, just a big mixer grinder, and so we can grind up to 3 tons at a time.
Yeah. So you guys have come up with a recipe that you like, and you're kind of sticking with that.
Yeah, we've got a couple of. We've got the guys at Futrell that have I don't know if you're familiar with Futrell. They do a lot of work with pasture-raised farmers.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work with them. They put together a recipe, and then there's an Amish outfit out of Kansas that put together a recipe, and so we've kind of mixed around things here and there, and then our friend up in Northeast Oklahoma, he gave us his recipe, and we've just been experimenting. And what goes into that pig feed is milo, which is sorghum, and we were using roasted soybeans till very recently, and we've been using soybean meal, which is actually working a little bit better. And then in minerals and stuff. So the pigs actually don't get any corn at all. Even non-GMO corn. They don't get any.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Man, it's nice having those resources around here in West Virginia.
Yeah.
We don't have that. We don't have that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand. That stuff's. It's tricky. I would say we call 10 feed mills before we find one that knows a guy that has non-GMO soybean.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's not very common, but we like to think that, I don't know, like maybe we're helping create more demand for non-GMO soybeans.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Would encourage more farmers to do that.
That moves the needle. When people see that much product going through, that's supply and demand.
That's right.
Well, awesome. Well, I know you'd mentioned that when you guys were first starting out, you got in with some restaurants that were buying your pork.
Yeah.
Let's transition and talk about that a little bit. So you guys are going to be moving 500 pigs this year. So what is your distribution process? How much is wholesale, retail, wholes, halves? Kind of break that down for us.
Okay. You want me to just stick to pigs in this part of the conversation?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So what really pushed us, so to be fair, last year we finished about 135 hogs. The big jump to this year is because of wholesale. If you're in the pastured pig game and you sell retail, you're going to sell pork chops, you're going to sell bacon, and then you're going to be figuring out ways to move your hams and your shoulders. And that's just the name of the game when you're selling pigs. It's like when you're selling beef. You're selling steaks, you got to figure out a way to move your ground beef. So a restaurant group approached us. I'll back up. We started selling wholesale in the late summer, early fall of 2016. And we had one or two accounts, and then one of them was taking ham steak and the other one was taking pork shoulder. And that was a great place for us because that left us, in a great position with bacon and pork chops. Then we opened up an account with a large restaurant group in Tulsa, and they own restaurants in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Little Rock, Arkansas. And we kind of became friends. We sourced one of their kind of fine dining restaurants with pork chops. And that was painful, to be honest, because we would start running out of pork chops from a retail side, and we're selling them all wholesale, and that was driving us nuts because we're obviously losing money.
Yeah.
So we kind of expanded to support the pork chop deal. And then we were doing, then we're running groups of 20 pigs at a time, finishing, 7 or 8 pigs a month. Then this last November, we had that group reached out, and there's a restaurant concept called Fassler Hall in Tulsa. They've got an Oklahoma City and Little Rock, and it's a beer and bratwurst joint. And basically all they do is pork. And they've been sourcing all their pork, commodity pork, Smithfield or whatever, through a local distributor. And we started talking to them about their vision to have all of their pork switched to local within, whatever time frame. So we opened up that conversation January of 18 and went back and forth on pricing and logistics and how we were going to move the rest of the pig, because they were going to take trim, essentially anything that wasn't pork chops and bacon.
Right,
we could roll hams in it, roll shoulders in it. And that was where it got very interesting for us, because we're like, all right, well, if they just want trim, so basically any parts of the pig we want to give them, they'll take. Then we kind of talked, we're like, all right, so that leaves us in the dream scenario for a pig farmer, and that is you're long on pork chops, bacon, and tenderloins. And that's where it got really interesting. So fast forward, 10 months, we finally inked the deal in November, where all of their 3, brat concepts, we're going to switch 100% over to Prairie Creek pork.
Wow. So you guys will be sourcing all 3 restaurants.
Yeah, we are now. And so that was in November, and it's a lot. I mean, they take, somewhere between 400 and 600 pounds of pork trim a week between all 3 of them.
Goodness.
And so it's a lot. Yeah. And so the price works, contingent on us moving the bacon and the pork chops. But you go to any restaurant and they've got a pork chop on their menu and they've got pork belly on their menu. And so if we wanted to wholesale all of it, we could, and charge a pretty decent price. But it's really opened up more avenues for retail, because now we've got like a couple little tiny boutique grocery stores in Tulsa and Oklahoma. We've got another organic farm that has a little farm stand that stocks our bacon. Bacon and chicken breast and ground beef are the big grocery store sellers. So that's what we sell them. And it's been a game-changing deal for us. So the numbers work. We we ran them 1,000 times, and we're able to. We're in the position where it's very profitable for us to stay in this game, and what it's done, on the back end is, now that we've got the publicity from this restaurant, basically switching all of their products from all 3 of their locations to a pasture-raised product, it's waking other restaurants up, saying, all right, if Fassler Hall can do it, we can do it too. And then we're getting more phone calls, so we'll see what happens next year.
Oh, that's great. So obviously, man, that's a huge jump there. So logistically, how are you guys handling that with just the logistics of shipping and processing and delivery? So are you guys doing weekly processing to provide those 400, 500 pounds of trim?
Well, I'd like to say that we're doing weekly processing because that'd be a lot easier, but no, we're processing kind of in bulk. So we're bringing between 20 and 30 hogs into a USDA facility, processing them all, and then bringing a trailer and loading pallets of meat onto them. I hesitate to say all this on your podcast because this is not my endorsement for this particular practice.
Sure.
This is just what we're doing right now, and I don't love it.
No,
because
yep.
It's not the dream scenario. I've got a 10 by 20 walk-in freezer on my farm. I really need a 20 by 30 walk-in freezer because we take trips to the processor, which is 2.5 hours away. And so, long story short, you do the math on that. It's a lot more economical to take 30 pigs to the processor once a month or once every 3 weeks than to take 10 pigs to the processor every week.
Right. Yeah.
And so we just be killing ourselves in hours and fuel, the drive time and dropping off pigs and all that. You're looking at a 6-hour round trip for one guy plus the fuel. And so, that just leaves us in a storage position. And so we rent freezer storage in downtown Tulsa where we store pallets of meat. And then logistically, we got ourselves a little delivery van. We got a little Nissan, tiny little city, I don't remember what it's called, an NV200. And that's what we use for deliveries. And we haven't refrigerated it yet, but we will. And so, we go to the freezer, load up the orders for that week, whatever it may be. And then we try to keep stuff in stock on the farm for the most part in our 10 by 20 walk-in. But we load them up in the freezer, and then we have all of our orders in our little we just basically an email to store all of our orders. We load them up, we weigh them out, we issue invoices, and we drop off. And then the ideal scenario is you get a check on when you drop off. Some restaurants don't do that, and they run a 30-day net payout, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, that's for the bookkeeper to take care
of.
But
that's the wholesale side of it, and then there's the retail component, which is, we've got a website, we've got an ordering process, we deliver home deliveries 2 days a week, and that, to be honest, is the future of direct marketing farms. Is home delivery. That's where it's going. So either the farmers are going to do it directly, or there's going to be a middleman that's doing it and collecting a check. So we decided that we're going to be the middleman, and we're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah, we're on a much smaller scale, but that's what we've discovered when it comes to eggs and pork. It's a weekly drive, weekly route. This is where we'll be. Go to homes in tight urban areas, or go to centralized locations in broader areas. Yeah. Well, good deal. All right. Well, man, I could go a little long here, but are you good to go a little longer here?
Oh, yeah. No, you're fine.
All right. Well,
Peter's got the farm tonight, so I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. So the last thing you talked about, or the last thing we'll talk about is going back to one of your first comments about having people on farm. Again, being 20 minutes outside of Tulsa, having people come, see the operation, get to just experience that way. So do you have an on-farm store, or do you have any other agritourism elements that help generate revenue for you guys?
We don't. We don't have an on-farm store yet. We have a lot of people asking for that. We have a place to receive people. We've got like a little covered porch and a living quarters with a kitchen that we have. We built it with the idea that we would like to have dinners out there. And last summer we did a luau Had about 100 people out for a luau, and we charged for tickets for that. You got to get, you got to be careful depending on where you are, because if you don't have a commercial kitchen, you really are not supposed to charge for dinners, that kind of thing.
Right.
So we've got a great relationship with the chefs who are chomping at the bit to do dinners at our farm, and they want to do them for free. They don't want to make any money. They just want to come out to the farm, and we market it, and we sell tickets to dinners at the farm. They want to do that kind of thing. That's a revenue source for us. We have people, now that we mill, we have people come and buy feed from our farm for their own backyard chickens or pigs or whatever they've got going on, because we can sell them non-GMO feed cheaper than the feed store can.
Yeah.
And then we're part of the agritourism, the Oklahoma agritourism, which is great because it releases us some liability. But we don't have anything on the farm that's really, from a retail perspective, making us any money. What we do every quarter, we have what we call the Prairie Creek Family Farm Day, where we open it up to literally anybody can come. And if it's in the winter, we cook chili. If it's in the summer, we've got brats or something, cheese platter, whatever, some snacks. And we also have a brewery on farm that should be open in the next month. So we serve beer out there, and we basically invite the whole community, whoever shops with us, whatever we promoted on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and get people to the farm for a pasture tour, for some free food. And then we have essentially our farmers market booth set up at the farm, and then we sell out of it. And so that we turn it into like our little grocery store for the day. And that's very successful. People want to go out to the farm. They want to bring their kids to the farm. They want to take pictures at the farm. They want to post about the farm on their Instagram. And they want to leave with some product. And so we end our big pasture tour at the sale booth, the little farm stand booth. And we basically ask everybody, like, hey, please stop by here and pick up something for the road. And so, yeah, we would love to have a space on farm to be selling. But, our cash right now is so tied up in an expansion for laying hens, pigs, cows, and all of that to keep up with current demand, that the idea of dropping any money or time into a retail space on the farm is just back burner.
Yeah, I mean, and those are definitely peripheral revenue streams, and definitely is just value-added opportunity. You don't want to get in the way of the mainstream. But it sounds like, I mean, my goodness, it sounds like you guys are already taking advantage of that traffic, and your customers are seeing this as a destination location to come, to hang out, to experience, and of course, like you said, to buy product.
Ideally, yeah.
Well, this is great, Nate, man. I appreciate you taking the time to talk. I'd like to, one question I always ask everyone when we wrap up here is, from your experience, what is your best experience or favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
Oh, man. There's so many things. Pigs still, I got all these other animals. Pigs are all of our favorite thing on the pasture. I mean, they got personality. They're a lot of fun. They're fun to watch. I mean, I could sit out there with a lawn chair and watch the pigs all day. I would not get bored. They're very friendly. Honestly, my favorite part of the pigs on pasture is when people come out, especially kids and younger people, come out and for the first time connect a pig with a piece of bacon. And it's such a foreign concept. It seems so simple, but it's such a foreign concept to most people that, all this food that you eat every single day, and the pork chop that you order, or the sausage or the bacon or whatever it may be, that these are coming from living, breathing animals that somebody's got to raise. And so that connection that you're making with people, for me, that's what drives me. And pigs are the easiest thing to show off. Chickens aren't that personable, and cows don't want to be that close to you. They got that 40-foot distance they like to keep between you and them.
Yeah.
Pigs want to be up in your business.
Exactly. Searching your pockets.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, it's kind of, I tell people all the time, like, you guys are welcome to go in the pig paddock, but I hope you're wearing something you don't care about, because they're going to be rubbing all up on you, and you come out there a muddy mess. But I think that something that's been so outsourced to huge, companies, to have somebody come out there and connect with it on a small scale and meet the real farmers that are, raising this product and see how a pig would live in nature if it wasn't being farmed. I think that that does it for me. And that's whether it's a pig or a chicken or a cow. I'm very mission oriented, and my mission is to connect people with food and to encourage people to buy products that were raised by somebody with a face.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm headed with pastured pork for sure.
Yeah, and that's a great point. There's so many people that are disconnected from their food source, and just helping people bridge that gap and make those connections. I agree. That definitely is motivating.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, before we wrap up here, if people want to find out more about Prairie Creek Farms, where can they find you?
We spend a lot of time on Instagram. It's just at Prairie Creek Farms, and of course on Facebook. But you can go to our website. It's prairiecreek.farm, FARM. And please do, we reach out via email, text, direct message, whatever it may be. If you have any questions, we are constantly reaching out to farmers that have been doing this longer than us, to try to find more information. And the most helpful tool to any farmer, especially a pasture-raised farmer that's just getting started, is farmers that have been doing it longer than you. And, as you've heard here, I've only been in this game for I guess about 3 years now. And so I don't have a wealth of knowledge. I rely on a lot of other people and a lot of YouTube. So, that's the easiest way to get a hold of us, social media for sure.
Good deal. All right. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us this evening, and have a good day on the farm tomorrow.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the opportunity. Love what you're doing.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too.
So as you heard there, Nate and his friends have had some really good success. Had some great opportunities there. Great opportunities with the land. Again, man, what a blessing it is to be able to access land like that on a lease that is long term, but has a sliding scale there. Allows them to have lesser overhead there, and they're going guns blazing, and that's just awesome. I love to hear those success stories, and I really appreciate Nate sharing his story with us. I want to challenge you to check out his website, prairiecreek.farm. That's prairiecreek.farm. Again, it's not a .com. It's a prairiecreek.farm. And it's a nice website. Again, as some of you know, maybe you don't know, that my day job is I own a small marketing company. So we do web design, we do digital marketing, we do all that kind of stuff. So I was looking at his website, and I really like his website. It is built really well. It's clean. It's a really good farm website. It has a web store element, so they're selling products online there. It's just very clean, very well built. So if you want an example of a good farm website that does e-commerce, then check that one out. I was impressed with it. Well, again, if you have the opportunity and you don't mind, please go to iTunes, to Google Play, to Stitcher, and leave some reviews. Give us some reviews so we can be seen. If you would, please share our podcast on social media. Send it to friends that have an interest in what we're talking about. And feel free to write a review if you would. We'd be more than happy to hear some positive feedback. Negative feedback, I guess you could leave that too, but we'd love to have feedback nonetheless. Let us know what you all think. All right, well, take care, everybody.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes,
Visit redtoolhouse.com.